I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much for coming out on a beautiful day and a beautiful evening. First item on our agenda is that we are going to have a commission report concerning some economic opportunity zones, and I believe Andy is going to present that to us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been working closely with County Commissioner Kevin Schutte on researching the new Opportunity Zone program that was created under the Tax Cuts and Job Acts of 2017, which is that bill that was passed by Congress, the tax reform. And what these opportunity zones do, in short, is basically create areas for economic investment. So what that does is unrealized capital gains basically partners private investment into opportunities for economic development. So it's based on census tracts. So the governor is able to designate up to 25% of eligible census tracts in the state of Washington as an economic opportunity zone, which would then allow for that investment into those projects. So the letter you have before you is simply just a letter of support and letter of interest to the governor to encourage him to do that.
I read the letter, and so what would you like from us tonight?
So we're just asking for your signature. So with your approval, if you're good with everything that's on there, we'll be sending that to him tomorrow, just as a show of our support for the city. So as far as just to touch on that, the eligible tracts, there's 8 total in Mason County. 4 of those cover the entirety of Shelton proper. So this would be directly, potentially could have a direct impact on the economic investment here in Shelton.
I'm all for it. So I don't know how other fellow commissioners feel about this, but I'd be happy to sign this, send it off to the governor, and ask him for some help.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Is that all you want from us?
That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Andy. Next is our weekly commission, or actually bi-monthly commission reports about the committees and activities that we're involved in. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Dorsey at this time to let us know what's on his agenda.
Well, on my agenda is the Mason Transit Authority Board meeting coming up again, and Housing Coalition meetings coming up again. I meet almost weekly with one or more of the county commissioners and see what they're up to, and they see what I'm up to. So, and various meetings coming up. There's after hours. There's a meeting with Bob Jean coming up, and there's a lot going on this week.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioner McDowell.
I had my left board meeting this morning. I'm going to be meeting with Bob Jean tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. Thursday we have an all-day retreat at the Mason Transit Center with Bob Jean and the commissioners. Also next week Lions Club, next Wednesday Chamber luncheon. A week. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And on a Thursday, I will be having my economic board meeting in the morning. Then it's all day, kind of a city retreat with Bob. And on the 13th is the MASCOM board meeting. On the 14th, there's a chamber lunch, which I'm planning to attend. And it seems like we have little staff briefings every other day right now. So that completes our weekly commission reports. Next is for general public comment period. And because this is a campaigning season and political season, what we want to remind everybody is we do no campaigning here at this meeting. And that, please, if somebody speaks, we don't want a lot of hand clapping. We don't do that. So just those are our rules that we had in place for, I think, the past 50 years or so. So I think at this time we can open up for general public comment.
We have Aubrey Coots. Hi again, I'm Aubrey. I'm 12 years old and I go to Olympic Middle School. 2 weeks ago, I came to stand up to a commissioner who was making bad decisions. Kathy McDowell's statement targeted my dad, and I pointed out how sad her behavior was. As a reminder, Kathy, you used your public office to talk about an issue that wasn't even on your meeting agenda. You planned for it before, and then took time at a meeting to issue an official city position against my dad, Jason Danger Cup Coots. When I talked to you last time, I mentioned that you were using the bully pulpit to make Danger Cup look bad. I learned about the bully pulpit in class, but didn't think I'd see it in person. My history book says that the bully pulpit is when an elected official uses her public office to speak out on any issue they want to influence. Kathy, you seem like a nice lady, but your behavior doesn't agree. It's fun to have examples from my 7th grade class, but it isn't really that great when it's happening in your own city. This week, I want to point out another term we learned in history class, political retaliation. It's when you use political power to get revenge on someone you think has messed with you. If it sounds familiar, that's probably because right after I spoke to you last time, you retaliated against another private citizen by bad-mouthing his business on your Facebook page. 3 months ago, you were a big fan of Olson Furniture. On the Facebook page where you keep all your official city public records, you said, "I buy all my furniture at Olson's, the best customer service." After Mr. Olson came here to ask you to resign, you changed your mind. 2 weeks ago, you said, "I will never ever give my business to that store. Sorry, but my money will never go there again. We need a great other furniture store in Shelton. I am done." Yeah, that bad grammar was you, not me. The next day, you admitted to it, again, on that Facebook page that's always in the news. Kathy, I'm not here to tell you that you're a bad person. I've seen the comments on Facebook, and you don't need one more person telling you that. I do want to make a suggestion. Please quit Facebook. When my best friend got in trouble last summer and her mom deleted her account, it was tough at first, but you know what? She got over it and started using Twitter and Instagram. Things turned out just fine. I think you'll be okay too. Seriously, I've heard about your Facebook problems, I've read through your stuff, and you really need to stop. The city needs you to stop. No more retaliation, or calling people names, or threatening people, or planning against people who speak up, or trashing businesses. Please be a grown-up. Quit Facebook and quit being the example for the bad things we learn in class. Thank you.
Jason Coots.
Last meeting, Gary was praised for all his work to get sewer money. Now that we know it was Gary that did the work, and not the Public Works Director or his team, I think it's important we recognize it. So I'm hoping that we can learn how Gary worked his magic at the Capitol, since state government seems like a secret game without a name. I'm interested in seeing some type of report detailing his success. Driving back home this weekend, I went by a town that Gary has mentioned a lot in the past. Othello, Washington, is apparently a strong partner in Gary's sewer coalition. That's about all I've been able to find in old documents and meetings online. Othello and South Bend are mentioned, raising money and lobbyists are mentioned, but not much else for the last couple of years. I really hope that this thing doesn't stay hidden in a closet somewhere. Please provide us with some information on what Gary's sewer coalition did. A sewer team recap report would have been very helpful for us to learn from. How much money did Gary raise? I heard we get tens of thousands from other cities, which is impressive, but I couldn't find any actual total. How long did it take to spend all that money and where did it go? What was the result of spending the money Gary had raised for sewers? Did we get money for fixing sewers in all the coalition cities, or did we just focus on Shelton Sewer? Thanks for the hard work on behalf of Shelton Sewer ratepayers. This little city needs help, and I'm glad this time we got professional help.
Tracy Moore.
Tracy Moore. 4 weeks ago, at the City Commission meeting, Commissioner McDowell read a letter into record and submitted said letter to the media. The letter made accusatory statements presented as facts about other members of the public as well as myself. In the media last week, there were quoted statements made by Commissioner McDowell that were unfactual and false and directed at me as well as others. I believe these statements were intended to deflect attention from her negative behavior. I would ask that you do not compare your behavior to mine. Let's look at the facts. The public records request information shows that in my 4 years as a city commissioner, there were less than 30 Facebook messages regarding city business, and there were over 1,600 emails regarding communications that I had been assigned and had taken it upon myself as an effort to make our city better. The majority of those communications were regarding city goals. The Simpson Rail, there was a lot of work done towards that. There were housing issues. There were issues like Tree City. There were issues such as Day of Caring that I was involved in all of my communications, there was no communication denigrating or disparaging members of our community or our staff. There were no communications colluding, fixing votes, or conspiring against my fellow commissioners or citizens. Do not try to equate the two of us in an effort to make yourself look better and to make me look bad. It's not true. The other statement that I will make is I looked up, and I'll make it really short and sweet and simple. The definition of slander is a false spoken statement that is made to cause people to have a bad opinion of someone. The definition of libel is the act of publishing, writing a false statement that causes people to have a bad opinion of someone. Leave me out of your problems, please. Thank you.
Tom Davis.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tom Davis. I really wish I could have spoken first. I'm here today to talk about tiny home villages for veterans. I believe the staff has informed you that Ponza, who is the administrators of Coyote Village in Thurston County, has made a proposal here to build a tiny home village for veterans in Mason County, actually explicitly Shelton, for a variety of reasons, which I won't go into because I haven't got the time. But there is a need. You know that there is a site that we are looking at after looking exhaustive research into the available lands that would meet our requirements that were vacant and 3+ acres. And so we're working right now with you and with the city staff to on a piece of property that is owned by Shelton, by the city of Shelton, the utility district, that we would very, very much like, of course, for you to either donate or give to us on a long-term lease. Now, I know that has certain ramifications, both legal and political, but the property in question would probably avoid a lot of those issues that might ordinarily come up during a public hearing process, because it's sort of isolated, it doesn't have any perfectly adjacent neighbors. The reason that we'd like to, of course, get the land donated for obvious economic reasons is that we're fully funded at this point. However, if we have to pay for the property, that's going to come out of our construction costs. And we'd like this to be, for want of a better word, top shelf. We'd like this to be the model from which other such villages are going to be created, both in the state and throughout the nation. So we'd like to use our money for the amenities. And those amenities would include, unlike Coyote Village, individual showers, maybe kitchenettes, which should also open up a variety of other funding options for us to sustain the village over a long period of time, because we intend at a minimum to maintain that village for at least 40 years. So, and that's the type of lease we would like to enter into with you, much like Coyote Village entered into with Thurston County. So I'd ask you that if you could find in your hearts, if you see the need, that we could turn an issue, the issue being homelessness, into an asset. And we honestly believe that this would be an asset. It is not going to be a project that is going to be stuck in the woods somewhere where nobody wants to see it. It is going to be something that everyone is going to be proud of. And I think it's probably a good time for people to be proud of some of the things that are happening in Shelton. The YMCA was an enormous step forward. I know you don't have an MOU in place, but at the same time, I think it's a strong step in the right direction. We'd like to be the second step. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carolyn Wilson.
I would be remiss if I didn't make a statement after the last week. My husband was a rabble-rouser in this community and as a business owner, and he was a business owner of Olson Furniture for 42 years. And he was always asking questions of the city and their budget and where they place their paper clips. He was maybe down to minutia, and also questioned projects such as LIDs. And one of the LIDs that he did question, he and a group of other citizens got together and I think they sued or somehow challenged the city, and the LID didn't go through. And also, when we moved from our old store to our new store, the city said that we could not have the Safeway sign that was there. And we used it as advertising, and we felt it should be grandfathered in. So we stuck our heels in, and the city stuck their heels in, and in the end, we were threatened with imprisonment and all kinds of stuff. And of course, we then gave in and took the sign down. Not one time, Kathy, in any of that, did one person, a city official, a city employee, ever say that our business should not be in this community or was not worthy and did not have a product that was good enough for the citizens to buy. I am incredibly disappointed at the position and the actions that you took.
Gigi Olson.
Good evening. I'm Gigi Olson, wife of Rod Olson Jr., who is a third-generation owner of Olson Furniture. On January 30th, he spoke at a city commission meeting asking Commissioner McDowell and Mayor CRONCE to step down in light of their criminal activities. He spoke respectfully and professionally, but even if he hadn't spoken such a manner, as a citizen and business owner, he has every right to express his political opinion. For over a decade, Kathy McDowell has been an excellent customer of Olson Furniture, even praising us for our services on an EDC spotlight on December 12th. On February 21st, Ms. McDowell used her political position to launch a verbal assault on the Olson Furniture Facebook page, to which she later fully admitted to being a political retaliation for Rod speaking at the aforementioned commission meeting. Business owners and citizens alike should never be fearful that speaking their concerns will bring negative, strong-arm tactics by our elected officials. Ms. McDowell, that store is how we feed our family. Owen, who is 8, Cash is 6, and Lydia and Luke, both 3. It's how our employees support their families, and it's how we are able to support this community in so many ways. So in essence, that tirade you so callously discharged was an attack on my family, as well as this community that we love. As an elected official, it is unethical to use your position to slander a small business as political vendetta. You continue to show your lack of integrity and sheer disrespect for this city and its people. This act is a prime example of why my husband and so many others have asked for your resignation to begin with. The citizens and small businesses of Shelton are the roots of this city. And Ms. McDowell and Mayor CRONCE, you are but small limbs on that tree. When a limb shows signs of rot, we all know the best way to save that tree. We will not move on until we move you out. Public servants should be an asset to our progression. The two of you are a liability. Your job is to publicly serve, not serve yourselves. It's time for you to show some accountability. Using Ms. McDowell's own words, we don't need a great other furniture store in Shelton. We need a great other commissioner. Do the one honorable gesture you have left at this point and resign. You two have turned our city government into an unethical, corrupt circus. I'd like to thank our community for its support and willingness to stand up for what's right. Thank you.
Olson.
Good evening. I'm Rod Olson Jr., third generation owner of Olson Furniture, Olson Mattress, and more. As my wife just spoke and my mom before, I'm here to voice my disdain with Kathy McDowell and her actions. Her slander and libel is an attempt to damage my business, is unacceptable. Her comment was in retaliation for my speaking about my concerns about the questionable behavior of our city government committed by her as well as Mayor CRONCE. Her damaging statement was then followed by a disingenuous apology of her own personal Facebook page, which she fully admitted her motive was a personal political vendetta in response to me asking her for her resignation. In that post, she asked us to move on. First of all, Mrs. McDowell, we will decide how and when we'll move on. You seem to have made a habit of making appalling statements while taking zero accountability for them. You are a liability for the city and for its citizens. We feel an obligation to our community to speak about this reprehensible behavior. We cannot and will not allow you to abuse your position to intimidate any other citizens or businesses in this community. Be aware that we have sought legal counsel with our attorneys at Holmquist and Gardner. Lastly, I'd like to thank our community for their support during this time and for the last 82 years in business. 82 years in business. I did say that twice. The comments, letters, phone calls, and texts have been personally received and reinforced what an amazing and supportive community that we live in. We deserve better than your unethical, disgraceful brand of leadership. Thank you.
Susan Kirchhoff. I think I wished I could have gone second. So I'm here to introduce something that we are doing. I'm Susan Kirchhoff. I've been in the community for probably 30 years. And something that our city is lacking is a Shelton Family Center, a community center. I know the YMCA is planning on coming at some time. I don't know the particulars. I don't really care, honestly, to be honest about that, because I don't want to have to pay to go to some place. So we are hoping to start an initiative with the Shelton Family Center. Our vision is it's going to be a nonprofit to create a thriving Mason County where families are healthy, youth are safe and challenged and empowered as the community connects to help each other succeed, working together so that we can shine and bring our families back together and show we have support, because there's not really anything for our kids and our families to do here in Shelton. Our mission for the Shelton Family Center will be building and empowering healthy multi-generational families. So breaking the generational issues that are happening and families being druggies and druggies and druggies and pregnants and pregnants and pregnants and helping them to break that cycle. Mason County, by doing that, we're going to provide safe place for them for education, caring and connection, life skills and resources. The intent is to absolutely reach everyone in the community regardless of your age. Grandmas that are raising their grandbabies will have a place to come and find resources to have help for themselves. And specifically, we're looking to hopefully fund it and get ready. We have everything in place. Nonprofit status is pending, waiting for whatever the state tells us, because we never know how long that's going to take. But it's going to be a 501c3. We have unlike some of the other, we don't have our funding quite in place yet, but we're hoping for it. Our community has a lot of resources, and our intent is to put the resources all in one place so you can go and meet those needs. There's a lot of things in there, but a lot of people don't know where they're at. They don't know what's out there because it's everywhere and it's so quiet and private and, oh, I don't want to take that and that. So we don't want to do that. We want to put it all together and send you where you need it. Let's see. So that's our intent. Shelton Family Center will provide one place to find options for community resources and seeks to fill the gaps in services by providing a drop-in service for legal and psychological resources, education, life skills, as well as basic care and meeting the needs. Our community connection is essential for the Shelton Family Center and for Shelton in general, bringing focus to our multiple support services and our great people here in the community.
That's it? All right, thank you very much for your comments. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. As my fellow commissioners had ample opportunity to review the consent agenda.
Yes.
Could we please have a reading of the consent agenda?
Vouchers numbered 16796 through 16868 in the amount of $109,616.13. Minutes from the special meeting, executive session of January 30th, 2018, business meeting of February 20th, 2018.
Is a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
And I second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes. Next, we are entering into our business agenda section. And what we're going to do is have our first item, number 1, be presented to us by our Public Works Director, Gregory.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening, we would like you to consider entering into a contract with Gray and Osborne for construction and project support and management. We are looking at some fairly large projects that we do not have the capacity to manage at this point in-house. This is a much more economical way to do business without having a city engineer on staff. They would provide to the city of Shelton in-house 1 day a week project support and also run the project construction meetings and oversee the submittals and the overall project status. There is no minimum level of compensation with this contract, so it would be on an on-case basis moving forward. So when we use them, that's the charges that we would incur with that company. And at this point, there is no impact to the budget. This is budgeted within the Basin 3 Downtown Connector and Turner Street projects. So the funding would come directly out of those budgets at this point that have been budgeted for 2018.
Questions or comments? Gregory?
None for me.
Well, it says there's no immediate impact to the budget. When would we know if there was any?
Well, there is going to be an impact at this point. We just don't know what that is at this point moving forward. It's on a time basis, so there is no minimum. As I said before, it would be as we use them, we would incur those charges. So at this point, we don't see a direct impact to the budget. And as I stated before, each one of those projects individually have funding available to them for project management and support. So we don't see that we would run over on any of those projects for support at this point. So we don't see an impact to the budget. It has been budgeted within each one of those projects individually. So at this point, those would be absorbed through any of those grants or match funding that we have in each one of those projects.
Okay.
And this is, like you said, case-by-case basis. So what happens is there has been kind of a tick up in the commercial activity. Is that have we seen a little more commercial permits coming in that, that we might have to get some extra help to handle those? Is that something coming up?
That is not what we're talking about here. We are
Right.
talking about just those 3 projects.
Right.
And the support for those 3 projects individually. So we're not talking about anything else. We do have, they do review somewhat the larger projects that we have. That is correct.
Right.
That we have seen an uptick in those. But really what we're talking about here is overall project support for those 3 large projects that we have going over the next 12 to 18 months.
All right, it appears that we concur to place this on the action agenda for March 20th. Thank you very much. All right, item number 2, Black Rock.
So as we use Black Rock for maintenance of not only parking strips, but also gravel roadways, we have a requirement to seek the best price for Black Rock. So we did an advertisement for the Black Rock proposal. We got 2 submittals, one from Kennedy Creek Quarry, just south of Shelton, and also Northwest Rock that has taken over the Little Creek Quarry that is at Taylortown. The issue that we had with Northwest Rock is at this point they are only crushing on an as-needed basis, and the requirement for them would be a 2-week lead time, which we in most cases don't have, and don't have a lot of storage for Black Rock. So in most cases, we, on an individual day, we would go out to the quarry, pick up rock for use on those individual bases. So by doing that, we would like to enter into a contract with Kennedy Creek Quarry for those Black Rock supplies.
Any questions or comments?
It would seem to me that it would be cheaper at the Kennedy Creek anyway, because they wouldn't have to call somebody in to crush the rock.
They were fairly comparable in price.
Were they comparable?
Yes, they were.
Any other questions or comments for Craig? Hearing none, it appears that we concur to place this on the action agenda for March 20th, 2018. Item number 3 is the Downtown Connector Design Contract Amendment. And then, Craig, you're going to talk to us also about that.
So we did have some increased cost for design throughout the project. We started off with an overall budget that did not include a roundabout at First Street. It also did not include illumination and the on-street parking on 4th, 5th, and 6th north of Alder Street. That was something that we added on to mitigate the parking loss on Alder Street at the courthouse. Those things took about $65,000 to do the additional design on. That is over the 10% limit that I have authority to sign for, so we're bringing it to the commission for acceptance of that contract amendment.
Kind of just, it's just a little overrun, but that's something that, you know, we have to address while we're doing the rest of the project. So once in a while those things happen, huh?
I will point out that we were over the original contract, but this also is not over the original budgeted amount for design. So we are staying within that budget. It was just outside of the original contract. So we are still within budget on design for this particular project.
So with this 65,000, how much more do we have before we go over budget?
This is the final design cost.
Okay.
So we
There
will
can be-
not,
okay.
we will not have any other charges to Downtown Connector project for design. It is fully designed at this point and ready to go to bid.
All right.
Any other questions for Craig Gregory? Hearing none, it appears we concur to place this on the action agenda for March 20th, 2018. Item number 4 is something we're going to let our interim city manager, Vicki Look, present to us.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm here to present a contract renewal for the legal firm Younglove and Coker PLLC, who has been providing prosecution services for the Shelton Municipal Court since 2006. So after this amount of time, it was we needed to renegotiate that contract and look at the expanding needs of the Shelton Municipal Court. And so we did negotiate that, and they increased their monthly fee to $6,500 per month, $1,000 per completed trial, and $750 per completed appeal, except appeals to the Court of Appeals, which are compensated at $1,500. Those additional fees do not come into play very often, and so we only anticipate that the increase in the contract would be approximately $6,000 over the year. So we're asking that you put this on the action agenda, and if we do in fact go over the amount budgeted because of court dates and things like that, then we would bring back budget modification at the time that we realize that extra funding is needed.
Very good. Is there any other questions for Vicki Look at this time?
Will this have any, will $6,000 be a problem for us?
I don't believe so. No, I don't believe that it'll run over that.
All right, thank you very much for that, and I think that we concur to place this one also on the action agenda for March 20th, 2018.
Thank you.
All right, item number 6 is going to be about a school replacement, and it's going to be Jason Does, our senior planner, going to talk to us about this next step.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor CRONCE, Commissioners DORCY and McDowell. As you're aware, the Shelton School District was successful in passing a bond measure last year in the form of about $65 million to do several upgrades to all of the schools. 2 of them in particular, Mountain View and the Shelton High School, have some substantial new improvements proposed, and they lie within our airport overlay zones, which brings me to the reason I'm before you tonight. Mountain View Elementary School is proposed to have a total replacement, basically a new school built on the same site, 55,000 square foot elementary school. This is all part of the bond package that was presented to voters, and in all honesty, the district worked with the city early on in the process, the Port of Shelton, who's our airport operator, and talked about these improvements that lie within our airport overlay zones. That said, we held a public hearing last month before our hearings examiner for a special use permit as required by our airport overlay zones to allow for the expansion of what are considered special function land uses. Those are things like hospitals, care facilities, schools, K through 12 schools. And I haven't yet received the staff recommended approval of the school, of course. We worked with them through the design process. I haven't yet received the hearings examiner's recommendation on that yet. But the special use provisions in the municipal code require that we bring any special use permit in the city before the city commission with the hearings examiner's recommendation, and you would either approve that recommendation by resolution or deny the project. And again, I apologize for not having the recommendation yet. I should get it this week, and I'm hoping you're permissible, allowable for letting us put it on your action agenda for March 20th. And the reason I'm asking for that is we're trying to keep with the school district's relative timeframes. They're hoping to have these schools up and operational by the 2019 school year.
I did have a conversation with Jason earlier today about this, and we have a process where we like to have time to think a week or so about these decisions, but recognizing the time frame that the school's under, that I would recommend that the commission does move forward with putting this on our action agenda. It's not his fault that we didn't get that information in time, and it's kind of like in these things sometimes the old 3-touch rule, just you got to kind of say we have to do what we have to do. So I don't know if my other fellow commissioners have any more to put in on this, or have had an opportunity to read this in depth and see that it's kind of pushing the issue just a little bit, but the time, you know, I think we need to give the schools every opportunity to get things going as soon as they can. So is there any other further comment on this?
I have no questions about this.
Yeah. All right, so it appears that we concur to place this item on the action agenda for March 20th, 2018. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we are moving into the action agenda, and if anybody has a desire to comment about any of the specific items on this, you are welcome to do that. We'll go down each one, and so if you want to talk about anything that's on your agenda there, please fill out a card or let us know. Okay, so item number one, it's Gregory again, and we are going to be talking about the Basin 3 construction.
So, Mayor, Commissioners, we are asking this evening to finalize a contract with Pavetta Brothers for the construction of the Basin 3 rehab project. As we discussed a couple of weeks ago, this project right now is projected to be fully funded through grant funding at the low bidder of $5.99 million. That is about $300,000 less than the available funding we have with grant funding. So we are asking to enter into a contract with Pavetta Brothers to start construction on that much-awaited project down in North Shelton.
Questions or comments to Gregory about this?
Excited for it to start.
I did ask, I think Craig a week ago or so about, just before we had awarded this, about if these guys were, good to do this, and it was, I got an assurance from him that they have a reputation of doing these projects, and that I feel confident that they will do a good job for the city of Shelton. So
we have checked references,
yes,
and done some background checking on them. They seem like a very reputable company, and have had successes even with our design consultants, Gray and Osborne, so they come highly recommended.
And this has been a long time coming, so been a lot of hard work put in on this by you and your staff, all the staff.
It has been a collaborative effort from everybody involved.
So when did you start this, actually planning this? And then you put it aside because of financial issues?
We started this back in 2013. The original design, it was done and shelved until about 14 months ago when we pulled it off the shelf and took another look at it. And then working with the commission and our elected state officials, went back after some grant funding and redesigned this entire project to get it 100% funded.
And I know that you will keep an eye on these contractors.
We certainly will.
Yeah, we hold you personally liable for any mistakes or anything they do wrong.
I feel responsible, Mayor, so we will
Good.
certainly.
I'm glad you go to bed with that one every night.
I do.
All right, well, I would heartily accept a motion on this.
You need to ask for public comment.
Oh, yeah, I asked already if anybody has a public comment. Anybody sign in for this? Oh, okay. But I'll ask every time again, which I should. So, do I have a motion?
I move to award the Basin 3 construction contract to Pavetta Brothers Construction, Inc. by authorizing each member of the commission to sign the project award form, and further authorizing the mayor to sign the Basin 3 construction contract once it has been signed by Pavetta Brothers Construction.
I will second that.
There's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you very much. Yay. Now, number two is also, Craig's going to talk to us about this SCADA?
SCADA.
SCADA services.
So just another housekeeping issue, that we had a contract that expired for SCADA services. Those are the electronic controls for not only the water system, but our overall sewer system that we do not have expertise in. So this is one of those things that we need to contract out to get those experts in when we have issues with those controls. So this expired at the beginning of the year, so just one of those housekeeping issues that we have. We went out to with an RFQ for this, got several responses back, and after scoring them, ultimately ended up picking parametrics who we've had in the past and have been very happy with their response to any issues that we do have.
Is there any public comment on this? Okay. Do we have any questions or comments for Craig Gregory about this?
Won't be anything extra on the citizens. It's all coming out of budgeted money.
This is all budgeted through the water and sewer 2018 budget.
All right.
All right. So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve award of the contract for SCADA services and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with parametrics for final execution.
Is there a second?
Second, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3 is an on-call material testing item. And again, Craig Gregory is going to talk to us about that.
So as you can see, our projects and purchasing coordinator has been very busy updating all of these contracts and keeping us in compliance. So another RFQ went out for materials testing. This is for compaction and material testing for overall city projects. It will not include the large projects that we have. There is a requirement for us to go out for those individually. So this would be any in-house projects that we are running through. We've got quite a few stormwater projects and water projects that will be digging through roadways and on the shoulders of roadways. So we need compaction testing for those. That is a requirement of the city of Shelton. So, would like to enter into a contract with Mays, who was the highest scorer of the materials testing.
Any questions? Does anybody from the public like to speak about this one? Okay, so any questions or comments for Craig Gregory?
Yeah, I have a couple here
Okay.
on this one. Yeah, are you familiar with this? Was it Mays testing?
Mays we have used.
We've used them before?
In the past, yes.
All right. And you
We have used
recommend
them on several large construction projects, most recently on Lake Boulevard, and we have used them before for in-house testing.
And I notice in the back of this paperwork, there's a fee schedule. Does this look, are their fees comparable?
Yes,
Yeah.
very.
Okay. And if I guess that if there was something came up unexpected, they would have to contact you for any further work that was unexpected or something.
They are on an on-call basis, so
On
the
call.
only time that they would respond is if we reached
Okay.
out to them. And they do have a requirement to respond to city needs in a 12-hour time frame. So the only time that they would respond is when we reach out to them.
All right.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the contract with Mays Testing Engineers Incorporated for on-call material testing by authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
I second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done deal. We're going to turn these meetings into the Craig Gregory show, I think. Let's see, we got another, yep, you're next. Item number 4. There you go. Well, at least we get used to your voice, you know, so.
You're on.
All right.
Thanks, Mayor and Commissioners. We are asking this evening to enter into another ILA for further processing of digested sludge. This is just another added customer to that program that we have been very successful in. We have the ability to process that and end up drying it into fertilizer that is not readily available to most agencies. So the state parks system is asking to enter into a contract with us to provide that service. And again, I think we've all talked about this in the past. It was one of those things that we started just over a year ago that we have been very successful in, and there's obviously a need moving forward. We've actually got a couple of other customers that are looking at coming, fairly large customers. The city of Yelm and Thurston County have reached out to us, so we are certainly taking a look at that and looking at how those would affect the operations of the wastewater treatment plant and staffing levels at this point, and weighing whether that is something that we want to take on. At this point, with all of the analysis that we have done, it certainly looks like it is something that we would like to continue to expand on, and have had great reviews from Department of Ecology utilizing that system to further treat digested sludge from outside agencies.
Is there anybody signed up for public comment?
Oh. I have a quick question that I need to ask you. I'm sorry, Mike, you want to go ahead and speak? And I'll, okay. So it says when the digested sludge delivered to the city is greater than 1.5% solids, state parks will compensate the city 71 cents per dry pound. When the digested sludge delivered to the city is 1.5% solids or less, the state parks will compensate the city. Why are we getting compensated when it for when it's we're getting compensated 0.95 cents per gallon when it's less, when the solids are less?
So
Why?
9.5 cents a gallon.
9.5 cents.
Less than 1.5% suspended solids.
Yeah.
So it takes us much less time and effort to process that, the lower the suspended solids are.
Okay.
So what we did so that we can recoup all of our costs through that process is the dried pound formula we put into play for anything over 1.5%. It really equates to about double the cost of anything less than 1.5, just because it has more of an impact on the main treatment plant.
Okay.
There's more polymer that's used. The centrifuge is used more to spin out any of the moisture that's
Okay.
in that, to turn that to around 20% cake, which is then run through the dryer. But just the entire process is much more elaborate when we get biosolids that is of a higher concentration of solids.
Okay, thank you. I was a little confused in that one. Thank you
So
for
that was
explaining.
one of the things when we really looked at this of how do we price this out.
Okay.
And that was what we came up with through that formula.
Okay, sounds good.
And we are all set up for this.
We are, and we have not
Infrastructure's
seen.
there, everything is there.
We've been doing
We've
that
been
for a while,
receiving it.
haven't we?
It's been about almost a year and a half now that we have been doing this. And yes, we are fully equipped to do it. We are one of only a few biosolids dryers in the state. Land applying is, for the most part, starting to go away. So that makes it much more difficult for these outside agencies that don't have a way to get rid of it. Really, the only way is to haul it to Eastern Washington, which is very expensive. So that is why we're seeing an uptick in the customer base that we have.
It's a very interesting process, too, if anyone wants to go out and look at it. It's really interesting.
All right.
You
Mike
make it
Olson.
sound so inviting.
Well, take your notes.
We have public comment waiting here.
I'm here to raise a couple questions and comments concerning this. We're up to about 1.5 million gallons, and I did a little math on my own house. The average citizen or the average resident creates about 40,000 gallons of sewage. 1.5 million is equal to about 30 houses. And I'm a little concerned that we're giving ourselves away a little cheap on this. If you built 30 new houses, the builder, such as myself, and I've had to pay these general facility charges up front, you know, whatever they are, $10,000. These companies that are bringing this to us are not paying general facility charges. I'm not even sure that they're paying the cost to the city on what we're giving the service of. And it concerns me that I have to pay my fees up front in cash before I even use a gallon of water. These guys are able to spread it out, pay as they go kind of a deal. The citizens of Shelton built this plant, and I don't think that we need to be subsidizing these outfits that bring this stuff in. And so I just want to make sure that going forward this is considered if we're going to go into the business, and as Craig just said, that this is going to get bigger and bigger. There's a reason they're bringing it here, is that we have the facility. We should be paid for this facility. We shouldn't be giving it away. If we get enough Shelton Hills comes in, are we going to have the capacity to handle that? And is it fair to the citizens to be subsidizing profit-oriented businesses or entities that are making money on this? Then it brings me up to my last comment about that the mayor made last week, that let's take that $120,000 generated and lower the sewage rates. Well, in my opinion, that was grandstanding, because if you take $120,000 and divide it by 10,000 people in our community, that's $1 a month per year. So I just think that, you know, when you deal with these things, you know, you need to do a little more research into them rather than just use them for your own political purposes to look good up there. I think that the citizens deserve a little bit more.
I think you're starting to go beyond the point of what we're talking about.
No, I'm still continuing
Okay,
on
sir,
with
sir,
what I'm
listen.
saying here.
Sir,
is that I think
sir,
that
listen.
the citizens who
Sir,
pay,
I'm chairing the meeting at the moment, okay? And this campaigning that you're doing, well, if you're talking about sewage sludge, you've certainly gone a long way from it, okay?
they're all connected.
Okay, so I'm just reminding you, stay on point, please,
Absolutely.
okay?
My point is that the citizens paid for this, and they need leadership that is going to look into this more than just profit-driven motives, that we're not getting a return on it. I believe that our initial purpose for this was to pay for the cost that the city incurs to treat this stuff. And I don't know if we are or not. We haven't seen any numbers on that. $120,000 in income to the city, what's the cost to generate that? And I would just like going forward for you guys to consider that a little bit more. Thanks.
Can you look into that, Craig?
I can respond to that if you
I was
would like
going to
me
ask
to.
you if,
Okay.
go ahead and respond.
So at this point, to answer one of those questions that came up initially, it does not affect our load at the sewer treatment plant, because what is coming in is not raw sewage. Right now, what happens when raw sewage comes into the plant, it comes directly into the plant, is basically eaten up by bugs, is turned into digested sludge, which goes into our digesters, which is then sent through our centrifuge to spin the water out of and directly to our dryer. So what we are rated on through Department of Ecology is the raw sewage that comes into the plant. It is not affected by the digested sludge that has already been produced that goes into the digester. So when we receive this material in, it has already gone through that process where the bugs have eaten up basically all of the bad stuff in it, and then it is delivered to us that goes right into our digester, from the digester directly into the centrifuge. So it does not affect the operation, overall operation of our plant, other than pumping it up to the headworks of the centrifuge, where it's dewatered, sent in through the dryer. To answer one of the other questions, at this point, I have looked into and continue to. I looked into it at the 6-month mark and also the 1-year mark. We have had no increase to the staffing levels at the main treatment plant, and we have not seen much, if any, of an uptick in our overall utility costs, which would be our gas, our power. There was a small uptick in the polymer that is used to thicken it, and that goes back to Commissioner McDowell's question of what is that process, to thicken, and the cost to do business for the 1.5% and above and 1.5 and below. That is one of the small cost increases that we did see. It was very, very minimal to add some more polymer to thicken that so that it could go up to the centrifuge. But at this point, we have not seen any staffing increases. We are getting very close. If we end up taking on Yelm and Thurston County, we most likely will have to add an additional shift to run the dryer portion, but no other operational issues that we have or increases to that. So we certainly have been looking into this. This is something that I proposed to the commission, and I certainly have been keeping an eye on it from day one, and we have not seen much, if any, of an increase in operations cost. It's really a way for us to really supplement what's already down at the plant, and actually mixing some more solids into our into our digesters actually helps our plant in most cases. So I don't know if I answered all of those questions, but I think I got a few of them.
I have one more. Yeah, you did. Very good. Yeah, are these prices comparable? I mean, are there's other companies around the United States that does this?
Even in the state of Washington, there are a few that do it, and it is very comparable.
Comparable prices.
To the city of Tacoma,
Okay.
who does the same process. Actually, we are just a couple of cents over where they're at, so we're a little bit more expensive. It really comes down to proximity, the customers that we're getting, and even with Yelm, the issue that Yelm is having with the city of Tacoma and processing, they could not agree to a long-term contract that they could ensure that they were going to get that processing done all of the time, which then creates a real problem if they run into some kind of capacity issue where they've got too many customers and end up telling Yelm that they can't come to Tacoma, and then they don't have a backup plan. That's really why we were contacted by them. So we are very comparable. Out at Biorecyclers, which is a land apply raw sewage site, they're charging, I believe, 15 cents a gallon for raw sewage, which is a process that's a little more elaborate than the one that we have. So we are right in between what really is land applying and the same service that we're providing. Like I said, we're just over where Tacoma is at this point.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, I guess at this,
Other comments?
about this subject?
Yes.
Okay,
Mandy Newman?
all right.
Marty.
Marty.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. I was scribbling really fast trying to get it. Okay, so this is really exciting because not only are we thinking green, we're being green, we're doing biomass, but one of the hardest parts about this new science and technology and other counties coming to us is, do we have a portfolio? I mean, seriously, this is an investment project, right? And we're creating an investment for our county. Do we have a portfolio? Do we have a profit and loss statement? I really would love to look at the numbers because I'm excited about it and the marketing strategy that we have for other counties. This is an incredible business. Go Mason County.
Well, it sounds like we have a favorable person. And to me, it's kind of like a win-win situation. We're not pumping any more raw sewage out into the water. I mean,
we never pump raw sewage.
Absolutely. I guess you got me on that one. Yeah, I mean, we're not pumping a lot of highly treated wastewater into the sound because of this process.
That is correct.
Is that better? So I was merely following up on that comment. We still haven't gotten to a motion. Are we going to do a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve the interlocal agreement with Washington State Parks for further treatment of digested sewer sludge by authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement.
I second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. It's only 5 minutes after 8. We're just starting to get rolling here. Okay. Item number 5 under the action agenda is also going to be talking about the Department of Commerce, and Craig Gregory is going to talk about a direct appropriation.
So I don't know how this worked out, but I think we saved the best for last.
All right.
So we are talking about 2 direct appropriations of just under $1.5 million each for a total of $3 million to the Sewer Basin 3 project, which ultimately ended up being able to fully fund that project. And we are certainly thankful to not only our state representatives, but the commission and the hard work that they did on securing these also, and the staff for working so hard on this project. That we are certainly happy to get this funding through our state electeds.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, did you have any public comment on this issue? Okay, so, do we have any questions or comments? Should we accept the $3
No,
million?
it's just really exciting.
I think we should accept the $3
Yes,
million. I
yeah.
think that's a good idea. All right, so I'd entertain a motion to do that.
Another project that's been long awaited. I move to accept the two Department of Commerce direct appropriation grants totaling $2.91 million for the Sewer Basin 3 project by authorizing the mayor to sign both contract readiness surveys and both lead certification declarations.
I will second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I think we should have a party on that one.
Yeah.
We are going to.
We're going
Yay,
to.
I knew that.
That's good. All right, item number 6, and folks, we are really winding down. We're coming within, we'll be at most another 45 minutes. No, just kidding. Item number 6 is our interim assistant city manager contract being presented to us by our interim city manager, Vicki Look.
Well, thank you. You know, a few months ago, our citizens here in the city of Shelton voted to transition from a commission to a council form of government. And we were looking around and to find a consultant that could come in and help us with those details of that transition. Then in the meantime, we had two resignations of the city manager and the city's finance director, and so I took the position of the interim city manager, and so we talked to the consultant who agreed to come on board and work through a few other details with us to look at the budget, help us look at some of our policies, do workshops with the staff and the commission, and then also reach out to the folks that were running for the council positions and talk to them about some of the details of what's going on in the city. And so we have a lot of good information out there for people to understand as we move toward that May deadline when we'll have a council seated. So we entered into discussions with Mr. Bob Jean, and he's in our audience today, I believe. And we are asking that you consider approving a contract for him tonight, which would be effective immediately and through the end of May.
Okay, is there anybody from the public signed up to comment on this?
We do. We have Jason Coots.
Last time it took you guys over half a year to hire a new city manager. It doesn't even look like you're starting that timeline for a few months. I'd encourage you to start recruiting now. I'm also curious why we're hiring an assistant to the assistant city manager. Seriously, we're gonna pay someone from out of town $12,500 a month for working 32 hours a week. That's $100 an hour for someone the community had zero input in hiring. The last time you hired someone at this level, it was a long public process. You can call in the assistant to the assistant. Maybe that's a way to avoid the public process, but it still doesn't make it right. I encourage you to hold off on this vote tonight. Think about what you're doing and strongly consider going through a public process. Consider that $12,500 is a lot of money, even if the person is working full-time hours instead of just 4 days a week. Also think about the fact that you already have strong leadership at the city. For example, I think you should consider Chief Moody. He's the most respected leader in the city. He was Citizen of the Year, and he's proven that he can turn things around. Why not ask the public what they want leading the city? Do they want Chief Moody to take the job, or do they want someone from out of town to come in and work part-time on a full-time job?
Anybody else? No. Okay. So, any questions or comments for Vicki Look? I will comment that we need the expertise that Bob is going to bring to this table. Someone that's been involved with this process for like 40 years. And it is not something that we want to make a mistake on doing. And so that's my comment. I think it's a great move. And I think that we need, sometimes you have to pay for the experience to come in and get things started on the right track. And I think that we have many experienced people here, but this gentleman is, in my books, very well qualified to help us in this next few months to transition from a commission form of government to a 7-person council form of government. And so I am in favor of this.
Yeah, I also agree. I've met Mr. Jean today, and I've read his resume, and he has extensive leadership qualities. And to help us move into the council form of government, quite frankly, we need his help. That's my opinion.
And I 100% go on that also. I had a chance to visit with him today, and he's a wealth of knowledge in that head of his, and many years of seating a council, which is a bigger project than I think most of us think it is. So we're going to open arms with him and have him get us on the right track.
So at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the employment agreement between the City of Shelton and Mr. Bob Jean as the interim assistant manager of the City of Shelton for the period of March 6th through May 31, 2018, and authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the commission.
I second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 7, I'm going to introduce our Police Chief, Chief Darren Moody, and he's going to talk to us about an interlocal agreement.
Greg was doing such a good job, I may just pass it to
Man,
Greg
I
and have
mean,
him keep going with it.
pass it right on.
A couple weeks ago, we brought forward their jail contract, proposed new jail contract. As we sent it over to the county, there was a couple minor adjustments that they had requested as they brought it back to us. So I'm bringing those back to you. One simply being definition-wise, in that we have what's called administrative bookings that we can do at jail when they allow us. Those administrative bookings are simply a promise to appear. We bring somebody in, they book them through the process, fingerprint, et cetera. They're there for a limited amount of time and released on a promise to appear later. There was some wording in there that explained administrative booking fees. It made it sound like all of the bookings were going to have that administrative fee, and that's not the case. That doesn't go with our 7 beds. So we've clarified that part of it. The other part that was overlooked, I guess, by us in the county was the high needs inmates. The county can classify certain inmates as high needs. These can be people that have mental health issues, people with drug addiction issues, that take considerable more staff time than normal. If we book somebody in and they deem them high needs, then the fee goes up by $20 a day as opposed to what the other fee is. Those are the 2 adjustments. Correct, right, Chris, and no others? Yep. So those are the 2.
Now,
Okay.
as far as,
Public
sorry, excuse me.
Public comment, if there's anybody who wants to speak specifically about this. Mr. Davis, you already signed in from before, I believe, so you can step up and talk about this if you want.
Thank you, Commissioners. Tom Davis. I actually was going to wait until Chief Moody finished the points he needed to make, but I assume that there is 7 beds. So that's my understanding, is there 7 beds that are set aside for the city. And I was wondering about the occupancy rate of all those 7 beds. I work, as you know, with veterans in the criminal justice system on a daily basis. And sometimes those veterans appear here in your court, municipal court, but they're not eligible for Veterans Court or Treatment Court from the municipal court. And I was wondering, because it's $102, my understanding is, per day, and it's far less than that to have them in treatment court. You do have a contract coming up, not only with the jail, but also with the prosecutor. And I've talked with your prosecutor here, and it would be highly advantageous to have a prosecutorial agreement at the same time, possibly as a rider to this jail contract, to say that the people who are veterans, and maybe even those who are eligible for other drug courts through the county that are not admissible through the municipal court, can access those treatment centers, and thereby maybe cut your costs down and also open up some beds for the county. It's a win-win all around. It's at least worth the try. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Chief Moody, did you want to?
Mr. McDowell was about to ask a question.
If I can remember what I was going to ask now.
I-
The drug, when we have issues with someone with some drug or mental issues or alcohol issues or whatever, is that triage center going to be used in coalition with the jail beds? The center down here, the OPUD building?
That's not a triage center?
Well,
it's a mental health facility.
mental health facility, right? Will that
Strictly
be?
mental health.
Yes, okay.
And it's an involuntary commitment. In other words, it's not a just walk-in mental health treatment center. It's
Well,
for our commitments.
will they bed them at the jail and then move them over there, or how does that
We're
work?
working extensively with behavioral health organizations about it. Short answer to that, no.
Okay,
Is it available for the county to use if somebody just has type of mental health issues? Yes.
okay,
In general, we will not book somebody in jail who is experiencing that mental health crisis.
all
They'd
right.
go there first.
Okay,
If they are cleared from there, then they could go to booking at the jail.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to address?
Well, I think at this point, let me just do a little bit of political, reframe this, or just frame the conversation that we are in the action agenda part, which means last week we talked about this under the business part, and when things from the public are talked about at that point, then we have or when we're aware of concerns, it's easier for us to probably rewrite a contract or something. So why don't you talk a little bit about what he recommended? I think we're up against the wall to sign this contract rather than try and rewrite this contract. That's the confusion on the public comment part of that. So do you want to talk about that?
It would actually be two different things.
Okay.
This contract is strictly for the jail beds with Mason County. In order to reference drug court or veterans court, it would be something that would be done through the prosecutor's office and the court here with the judge, not necessarily through the police department aspect of it. Does that make sense? We wouldn't, the police department would not have issues with that. It would be what would be addressed in the courts here through the judge, through the prosecutor, in coordination with the county and the county prosecutor.
Right.
So I will be happy to bring that up tomorrow and then come over and have some conversations and start some conversations here about that, but it's separate than this.
Okay, so at this point, I think what we need to do is see if there's any more discussion concerning the signing of this agreement here and this interlocal agreement. And so I think we have to take this in its, with the contract before us. So I would like to pass this on. So is there any other further questions or suggestions from my fellow commissioners?
No.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion at this point because we need to make an agreement with those jail beds. So now, so is there a motion?
All right, I move to, let's see, how do you want to see it on here? All right. I move to accept the jail facilities interlocal agreement as presented by Chief Moody.
I second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the last little bit of information that we need here is to have our city manager report presented to us by the interim city manager, VICKI.
I don't really have a manager's report, just to point out that we do put on the looking ahead, the agenda items that are coming up to you in the next few weeks, and to take a look at those. And if you have any questions, make sure you get back to staff, and we can clarify any questions that you have coming up before they come onto the agenda.
All right, very good. I thank you very much. Our next meeting will be March 20th, 2018 at 7 p.m., and this meeting is adjourned. It's a little long. It's a little long.